Hello everybody, it's me, Biliah the Sega Gamer, and this is my first review. Now, this review is very hard, because, I have to get the footage, the music, everything. But anyway, this is not gonna be my best review ever. But please do not criticize me or anything. This is opinion based. You can make your own review or put it in the comments section. This is opinion based. Okay? Okay. So anyway, this is my first review. This is my first review on Disney's first ever Japanese anime. That's right, W.I.T.C.H. Disney's first anime in 2004, airing in Jetix. Now, the W.I.T.C.H. anime is based off the W.I.T.C.H. manga that was created by Elizabeth Gong. But before we review the show itself, I want to give a quick little history how Jetix became to be and how W.I.T.C.H. got popular. Okay. Disney. Is there anything that you can't do? You make the best cartoons, the best animated movies, and back then, even still up today, you make the best channels ever. ABC and Disney Channel, but I'm gonna be focusing on Disney Channel. Disney Channel was developed in 1983 by having a channel that shows all Disney stuff, ranging from their cartoons, movies, and occasionally that live action Zorro show. And somewhere in the late 90s, 1997, Disney Channel was becoming more of a teen-oriented channel. They try to keep their balance of cartoons, but sadly, it didn't work. So during that same year, they made, of course, Toon Disney. Now I'm not going to talk about the shows that were on Disney Channel, because half of the majority of them used to be on Disney Channel. So basically, Toon Disney is just a sister channel to, of course, regular Disney Channel, and they move all their classic cartoons, ranging from DuckTales all the way up to Dave the Barbarian, into that network. Also, they have a couple of new cartoons into that mix, like The Weekenders, Lloyd in Space, Pepper Ann, and Recess. In late 2004, when the early 2000s was gonna have its big bang, the Disney producers from Toon Disney wanted to make something more teen oriented and something that everybody can relate to, that everybody likes in the pop culture world. Well, Cartoon Network made Toonami, and their first animes were Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon, that aired in 1996. So how can Disney prepare all this? They, of course, eventually made Jetix. Jetix is a Japanese anime Disney program where they bring all their famous Japanese anime from Japan to America, ranging from Super Monkey Force Hyper Team Go, Adam, and of course, Witch. One of my all-time favorite animes ever. Now, can this anime be as successful, or can it can it be watched up today, or is it gonna be another crappy Sailor Moon ripoff? Well, let's find out for ourselves. Okay, now the plot and narrative is that it starts off with Haylin waking up the next day trying to get to school, until while she was getting ready, she ends up sneezing a big windy tornado in her room. But so she goes to her grandma and questions about that sneeze. But her grandma says it's just some ordinary cold, go to school. Haylin questions about Yalin's box, her grandmother's box, what's inside. Yalin says it's just a birthday present. Haylin goes to school. But we really know it's some mystical jewel. As the audience is the audience is watching on the TV. Next, meanwhile, there's this new girl called Wilma. No, not that Wilma. Wilma Vanham, or Will for short, who just moved from Baton Hills to Heatherfield. So mainly, her mother kissed her goodbye, and she's in science class with 3 students, Irma, Tarani, and Cornelia, on her science project. She introduced herself and helps on the science project, but suddenly Cornelia budges the plant to make it grow, and And Haylin comes around to her science booth and asks them if they could come to her house for recreation time and to negotiate. So Haylin invites her old friends and including the new girl Will. And while they were eating their snacks, Yalin shows Haylin, and Irma shows Will, Irma, Tarani, and Cornelia the mystical jewel that she has, which is called the Heart of Kandakar. So mainly, hold on a sec. So mainly, Yalin talks about the origins of the Guardians and how they were all created and what's their purpose. The Guardians' purpose is to protect the world called Meridian. As y'all know, in the show, she talks about a history how Meridian was created, seeing how that the medieval times era has not existed, is still existing even up to this day, only in the show's purpose. So she explains that she used to be one of the Guardians, and she explains about the 4 out of 5 girls who had the weird powers: Irma, Tarani, Cornelia, and Haylin. Irma has the power. Irma has the power of water. Tarani has the power of fire. Cornelia has the power of earth. Haylin has the power of air. But they question, why does Will doesn't have any powers yet? Well, mainly Will is the keeper of the heart, but she doesn't want to accept it, seeing how she just wants to start a new life in Heatherfield, going to Sheffield Middle School. And of course she has no choice, but she gives it a try. So, but eventually in season 2, she does develop some new powers, but I want to keep the spoiler free free for anyone who didn't watch Witch. Okay, so the next, later that evening, they go under the Heatherfield Borough Bridge to practice their new powers. There's several times a little mess up, goose up there with their powers, seeing how Irma has to learn how to use her water balls, Serani has to learn how to use her fireballs, Cornelia has to learn how to use her earth powers, and Halen has to learn how to control the wind tornado, and Will has to learn how to, of course, fly, because she doesn't have any powers in the first season. So Will decides for them to pack up, and they eventually do. And they try to ignore the situation that's not real. Until a portal actually shows up, and it reveals a rebellion warrior named Caleb and Phobos's apprentice Cedric, who's trying to take over Heatherfield. They believe Yonlin's story, and basically Will tries to learn how to close the portal, and the next day the girls go back to Sheffield Middle School for picture day. So but Will gets kidnapped by Phobos, the main villain of the show, and he's trying to use the heart not to find his lost young sister and to take over Meridian and Earth altogether. Then Will is captured in the prison cell in between the giant pits, and she tries to climb up. There's no way to get up there because the walls are all rocky, and it could easily slip off. So she meets the rebellion warrior Caleb and a green small troll. No, not that troll Shrek. This troll named Blanc. And basically, meanwhile, Cornelia, Irma, Tirani, and Halen found the heart lying around Will's backpack, and they had to use the heart to locate a portal somewhere in Heatherfield. Go inside the portal, and save their friend Will. But Cornelia doesn't trust Will, seeing how she just wants to live an ordinary teenage life, and she blames it on her, like from the first episode it begins. So the girls go in Meridian, not knowing that it's really a medieval dimension that still exists on Earth, and they try to avoid all the demons, monsters, and soldiers that Foles has them trapped for them. Eventually, they save Will, and they all try to escape from Foles' dungeon to the castle. Okay, and then, but a rock monster tries to stop them going inside the portal, and eventually they will make it. Then after that, they go back to Halen's house, and Halen's grandmother, Yonlin, explains that not only they gotta be responsible for keeping her powers hidden from from one another and their parents, but they gotta keep up with schoolwork, deal with problems at home, and of course, saving the living people in Meridian. That's all you need to know about the show, but you know, I don't want to go into further details. Now, you may think that this is a Sailor Moon knockoff, but no. Like I said, sooner or later in the show, it becomes more badass. Okay, now let's talk about the characters. First, we have Will, which she is played by Kelly Stable. Now, Will, the redheaded Puerto Rican girl, is a new student going to Sheffield Middle School and she's trying to live a new life with her mother since they already moved from Baton Hills. And I gotta say, Will is the best character in the show. Now, you may be wondering, am I going to go crazy since she is a redhead Puerto Rican girl? No. Even though I like redheads and I'm strangely attracted to them, this female is an exception. She has pretty much a personality. She goes, once she finds out she has to lead the Guardians out of the trouble Meridian, she has a hard time adjusting and touch basing with her friends and Guardian members. Her parent, her mother, and life that goes on with school. Now I gotta say that Will reminds me, of course, myself, because I deal with the same problem. Despite you know, me not having super unnatural powers. But eventually, later on in the series, her friends sometimes don't rely on her to turn to a guardian. She becomes more of an independent hero. And fights for her own actions. Now, Will does not have powers in the first season. She basically uses all types of weapons that Caleb gives to her, or whatever that she could find. But later on, she learns the power of quintessence, and she learns that her electrical powers could turn everything to life, and could turn electronics to life. Now we are going to talk about Irma, which is played by Candy Marinello, which you should already know. She played Trish from The Weekenders, and Dexter's from Dexter's Laboratory, and Madam Foster from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. She's basically a feisty Spanish girl with a wisecracking attitude, making self remarks, jokes about her friends in a sarcastic.
Easy, corny. No, you take it easy, Ermy. Chocolate. Oh, Blanc, I've trick-or-treated enough to know that's a rock, blockhead.
Way. Well, anyway, when she first found out she was a guardian, she pretty much was excited about it. She's pretty much excited about it, but as the show progressed and go on, her family members pressures her to deal with the life at home with her little brother, and plus her father is a cop, so he investigates what's going on with Irma when she's not babysitting her brother Chris. Now Irma, of course, you should already know, has the power of water, and mainly she could create giant water balls, tsunamis, tsunamis, water wave current, ocean wave currents, and more. The next we have Tarani, the smart girl out of the group. The smart girl out of the group. Unlike most smart girls in anime, which becomes a whining, most anime girls become a whining butthole. This smart girl in this anime, I could appreciate. I could appreciate. She's one of my 4 favorite characters because she has to deal with the lives of her mother, which she's a judge, and try to do her best to find out more research about her and the rest of the girls' powers. Now, Tarani has the power of fire, and seeing how when she was young, when she was afraid of fire, she has to use her fire powers wisely. She doesn't use it not only when it's dark, but she uses it on the more tougher enemies. But eventually, once Will gets her quintessence powers, she doesn't use it that often. Okay, then we have Cornelia, and yes, like every anime blonde girl, she complains about being a guardian, and she wished she was popular at school, and she basically blames Will. And she basically blames Will for all this action, but eventually she and Cornelia will gain her trust once again throughout the seasons 1 and 2. And also she has a love interest, which is Caleb. Now Cornelia's power is Earth. She can cause earthquakes, use psychokinesis, and move rockable objects to hit the enemies. Then we have Haylin. Haylin is just basically Yonlin's granddaughter. She's the happy-go-lucky girl out of the group. But eventually, while the seasons develop, her character development becomes truly strong once she saw her grandmother again controlled by Narissa's powers. Now, Haylin has the power of air. You may think she's the weakest link, but she's not the weakest link. She has the powers to cause tornadoes, storms, and overall use her air for situational things. Okay, since we got the female lead out of the way, we have the male protagonist. Now, you may think that these male protagonists are just there for their good looks and have lacking personality like in every anime. But no, these male protagonists actually have a personality and their character development are truly useful in this show. Let's start with the rebel leader Caleb. Now the rebel leader Caleb is out there for his revenge because obviously his father is held captured by Phobos' men at the underwater mines. One day he eventually tries to save the people of Meridian, but sadly fails. That's why he has to go to the Guardians for help. Now Caleb is voiced by Gregory Clips. Yes, the same person who voices Kevin from freaking Ben 10. But unlike Kevin where he's a big jerk, Caleb actually has a true heart and soul. But there's several episodes where Caleb is a big dick, but heck, he's trying to save the Meridian and he's trying to not sacrifice his life for Cornelia, similar how in the Sonic comic books, where let's say Sonic's trying to save Knothole from the war that Eggman's causing. Then we have my all-time male protagonist, Matt Olson. Okay, now Matt Olson is a hilarious dude, but yet again badass in which in the first season he's just basically a love interest for Will, but in the second near the end of the first season and somewhere in the second season, he learns more about Meridian, trains with Caleb, and eventually joins Caleb's rebel army. And he tries to protect Will. Will didn't accept it at first, but yet again she got used to it. But eventually, spoiler alert. But eventually, in season 2, Nerissa tries to make Matt into one of her minions, her henchmen, and Matt eventually turns into Shagon. But Matt tries to fight through it, and he's eventually back to normal again. What I like about Matt, because he is the perfect boyfriend for Will. He is so super hilarious and funny, and also he could become a badass. Just listen to these badass quotes.
Cover shake off. Nerissa wouldn't like that now, would she? Nigel's already suspicious. Just give me a little more control over our brain and body, and I'll get you through. You know I'm right.
Well, anyway, Matt is voiced by Jason Manson. That's right, the same voice actor who did Tino from The Weekenders. And, Tino for The Weekenders. And, Max and Goofy's son's Max from the movie, from the Goofy movie and Goop Troop. And the last male protagonist we have is Nigel. Now Nigel wasn't really a protagonist. He was mainly the background character. He didn't become one of the male protagonists or one of the main characters until the second season, which is K's for Knowledge episode. Now I like Nigel as well too, even though he's he's not totally a badass, and he doesn't hold weapons. At least he tries to become a great boyfriend for Tarani, and tries to look past his mistakes for being a bad boy who always tries to pull pranks and jokes with his friend Naraya and the gang. Okay, and we had two more supporting characters, Yanlin and Blanc. Basically, Yanlin is the former guardian guardian of Chicken. And no, not that chicken, this chicken. And she basically tells the history about Meridian and questions the Guardians about their powers. Of course, Yanlin is voiced by Tom Loring, the same person. Lauren Tom, the same person who voices Leela from Futurama. Then we have the most hilarious character in the show, and that is Blanc. And what I gotta say, that Blanc, even though he's there for comedic relief, I still get some chuckles out of Blanc when let's say resume recording. I still get a chuckle out of Blanc when he's doing his comedic moments by him being curious all the time, his reactions towards Phobos and his army when the girls are captured, and also he could be quite interesting. Just look at these cutscenes. Just look at the scene.
No worry. Blanc visit Earth soon. Great. Still got bad aim with Tonga Tooth. Being late all Blanc's fault.
Well, then make up for it. Find Mr. H.
Mouse for Blanc. Yeah.
Mouse is not food. Mouse is pet. You eat mouse and you're toast.
Mouse with toast, yummy too. Cam, must snap out of it. Blanc later. Oh, clean? Mama not recognize her Blanky.
Of course, Blanc is voiced by Stephen Bum. As y'all know, Stephen Bum provides the voice of some of the Digimon monsters. And of course, he provides the voice of, Spike from Cowboy Bebop, one of my all-time favorite animes. Don't expect the main characters to be part of the character development. We also have the supporting characters and the Guardians families. Okay, so we have Elion, which is the Guardians' best friends, of course, but she later soon realized that she's the princess of of Meridian, so she betrays the girls because of Phobos. But later on in the show, Elion truly realizes that Phobos is using her to get the heart of Meridian, so that way Phobos could combine the heart of Kandagar and Meridian all together to create a big power for his advantage to take over Meridian. But suddenly the Guardians come up and try to save Meridian and try to save Meridian as well. Then we have Admar, who's Caleb's best friend, who is Caleb's best friend, who lived in Meridian, and he's a part of rebellion, and he's a part of the rebellion troop. Then we have Vanek, who's the big blue skin guy who used to work for Phobos, but suddenly abandons Phobos, and he's more of an ally to Caleb than he is to Phobos. He tries to do whatever best help as he can to save Meridian and defeat Phobos. Then we have Mrs. Rudolph, the Guardian's math teacher, and who is Elion's half aunt. The story is that Mrs. Rudolph was trying to protect Elion away from Phobos, but yet again dropped the seal of Phobos. And the seal of Phobos could create portals, but I don't want to spoil anything. So she basically tries to protect Elion and tries to find a portal to Earth. The next characters we have are Marilyn and Amron. Basically these two are Elion's adopted parents. Seeing how that Phobos wouldn't reveal Elion's true parents, Marilyn and Amron basically found a house in Heatherfield, and she took care of Elion throughout those years. Then the next supporting character we have is Alicia Van Dosh. Alicia Van Dosh is one of Matt's ancestors in the show. Basically, he's captured by Phobos and in one of his picture frames because of disobeying his leaders. But the Guardians trying to help Alicia Van Dosh tries to get back to Meridian and get back to his loving family. Then we have the former Guardians. First, we have Cassidy. No, not that Cassidy. Cassidy Calcon, who is the former Guardian who's the former Water Guardian before Irma started continue that origins. Cassidy Calcon Cassidy Calcon is basically dead in the show, and she's a ghost. Why? Cause Narissa tries to Cassidy tries to stop Narissa from stealing the heart, but eventually Narissa kills her, but Narissa brought her back to life, and seeing how she misses her life in Heatherfield and her mother, she basically agrees to Narissa to join her evil deed. It wasn't until the final episode where she realized that she was truly evil. Then we have Eleanor Claudskin, who is the former fire-type guardian. She basically guards a sky castle called Kandahar, which is based off the sky castle called Kandahar, which is based off the jewel that Will has. And Kandahar is where the Guardians can refill up and gain their powers and learn about the new origins of the Guardians. Then we have his Kandahar Starlighter, clever name by the way. She is the former Earth Guardian, and she basically is the protector of Zambala. And in one of the episodes, she bans the Guardians from Zambala because of the Knights of Vengeance. And then in the season 2 episode, Peace for Protectors, she saw Nerissa turn into one of the Guardians, and she almost had a distrust over the Guardians. It wasn't until Tarani had to explain it all. Plus, we have the family members. Now, the family members. Now, in the first season, they're only just there as background characters, but eventually their character development gets really good. Let's start with Will's mom, Susan Vanham. Susan Vanham is a workaholic mom, and she works at the detective agency. She tries her very best to get Will to improve on school and also do her home chores, which is very similar to my mom in real life. Later in the show, she doesn't realize that Will has been keeping a secret of her for being the Guardian, and in the M episode, Shagon tries to kill Will's mom just to prevent Will from saving her in Guardian form. Then we have Mr. Collins, who's the Guardian's history teacher and Susan Vanham's love interest. Will has a trust between Mr. Collins and her, because for one, the first time she thought Mr. Collins was the monster, and it was really Cedric. And it turns out not to be true. And plus, she has a distrust over Mr. Collins because she doesn't want to see a new relationship between him and her mother, because she truly misses her. She truly misses her birth dad. And then the next character we have is Tony Vanham. Tony Venom, or his real name, Anthony Venom, is Will's biological father, and in season 2 he tries to spend time with Will. But Susan Venom has a great distrust over Tony because he thinks that he's a bad influence towards her daughter. Similar to my mom almost having a distrust to her boyfriend, actually named Tony, what a coincidence by the way, for being a bad influence. Okay. Then we have the other family members. We have Irma's family members, Anna and Tom Lair. Basically, Tom Lair is the cop out of the family, and Anna is the mother. But the character development truly shows in the C episode where, let's say, Tom Lair tries to almost ground Irma because she wouldn't reveal her powers and the missings of Elion. And Chris Lair is Irma's little brother, where let's say where she has to babysit Chris Lair, but eventually Chris Lair almost causes the Guardians to be in chaos because he's always questioning the villains and going to their business. Then we have Teresa Cook, Lionel Cook, and Peter Lanton Cook. Now, Teresa Cook is Tarani's mom, and she's basically the judge. She's basically the judge of Heatherfield. She doesn't trust just like Will's mom. She doesn't trust Tarani as much because, for one, Tarani's going out with a bad boyfriend influence, and two, she wants to know the truth about her and her being a guardian. Then we have Lionel Cook, which he is Tarani's father. He's not mainly in the show. The only thing I could know is that he is allergic to gerbils, like Mr. Huggles. Yeah. Then we have Peter Lanton Cook. Now, Peter Lanton Cook used to be Cornelia's love, and Cornelia uses Peter Lanton to make Caleb jealous when he was a dick in season 2. But as the episodes go on farther, Cornelia eventually breaks up with Peter Lanton Cook and goes back, falling in love with Caleb. But as for the rest of the parents, like Cornelia's parents, Halen's parents, they're not really mentioned in the show. We see them, but they're not really mentioned. But Cornelia's little sister, Lillian is just basically like Chris, but Lillian always gets jealous of Cornelia, and they have that type of sibling rivalry that you normally see every day. We're done with the supporting characters. Now we are going on with the villains. The first villain of the show, you should already know, is Prince Phobos. Now, Prince Phobos is an evil dark prince who almost killed Elion's parents, and who's trying to take over the world of Meridian. he he basically tries to steal the heart of Kanagaar, and he uses Elion's type of medical powers, just telepathical powers, just to use it for his own, just to use it for its own evil. Then we have his apprentice Cedric. Okay, Cedric is a snake monster in disguise as a human, as a librarian in the bookstore. The Guardians try to track Cedric as the monster, and Prince Phobos alert to Cedric to kill one of the Guardians or steal a viable item. Then we have Frost the Hunter. Frost the Hunter is an assassin who's trying to kill the Guardians and capture them. Frost the Hunter is one of the Frost the Hunter is one of Phobos's soldier who rides on a rhino, and he basically uses a bow and arrow just to shoot and target where the girls are at. Then we have Crimson. Crimson is one of the skinny guards who tries to capture one of the Guardians, but sadly fails once Will uses a swinging mace and punch him in the face and fall through the fiery pits that Phobos has. He eventually falls out the flaming fiery pits of Phobos' castle. But later on in the show, he gets his revenge when Nerissa heals him back to life. Then we have Sandpit, the sand monster who tries to devour the Guardians and kills them with the stickiness of the sand. But eventually the Guardians team up and create a concrete where, so let's say, Sandpit was remaining frozen for over 4 years until Nerissa comes back and unfreeze Sandpit from his from him being frozen, and he gets his revenge. Then we have the Rock Monster. The Rock Monster appeared in the first episode where let's say he was trying to kill the Guardians, but eventually he smashed into crumble pieces and eventually gets captured in jail until Nerissa sets him free. Then we have Miranda. Miranda is really a spider creature who follows around Elion who follows around Elion as one of Phobos's second apprentice, but yet again Phobos turns Miranda into an ordinary spider. Does not interfere with his plans. But Nerissa frees Miranda, turns her back into a human form, and tries to get revenge on the Guardians. Then we have the Tracker. Now if you look at his face, he sort of looks like the badass version of the Grim Reaper. Well, anyway, the Tracker is basically another assassin that Phobos used, and he uses a whip. He uses a Castlevania whip baseball. It really does remind you of it. And he has this dog to sniff out the Guardians, their smell, their hair, their smell, their hair, and their other five senses. Eventually, the tracker will come back in one episode, just to fully finish his job. Just to fully finish his job. And then during that movie theater scene, Caleb traps the tracker back in the portal where he just first came from. Even though he's one of those villains that don't talk, I gotta say that the tracker is very badass and very medicine and threatening towards the Guardians. Then we have everybody's most favorited villain and the whole threatening villain throughout the entire series, Nerissa. Basically, Nerissa used to be the former Guardian leader and used to have Will's powers, but later on in the seasons, while it explains her turning evil, she basically betrays the old Guardians and uses her powers with force to take over Meridian. So she not only wants to kill the former Guardians, she wants to kill the new Guardians and kill all of Elion's family and Phobos all together. Now I gotta say this villain gave me the creeps when I was a kid. Because she basically turns from a Guardian to an evil sorcerer when she uses her electrical powers of quintessence for evil instead of good. Turns everything to life. She also formed not one, not two, but three teams of evil villains. First, she made the Knights of Vengeance, consisted of Frost, Crimson, Miranda, the Sandpit, and the Rock Monster. Then she abandoned the Knights of Vengeance until season 2, around the episode Alice for Loser, turned Matt into one of her minions, into Shagon, the Hate, and made 2 other minions, Core, Ember, and Triton, just to use the Guardians' emotions for their weakness. But suddenly, the worst comes to worst when she uses the Knights of Destruction's powers and uses the Hypno Horn just to hypnotize the former Guardians' chicken and made them truly evil. And I thought that horn was indestructible. Well, anyway, Nerissa became the best villain throughout the show, and she will always continue to be the best villain throughout the show. So yeah, that's all I need to say about the characters. I know I missed out on Eric, Halen's love relationship when I was talking about the supporting characters. But I don't want to sit here all day. The point is, you have to go watch the show yourself. I love the story and plot so much because, unlike most anime today, it's non-repetitive and it doesn't repeat itself, and it always has new plots where it always has new plots, and it starts where the last episode left off. And the character development is so strong that each and every one of these characters have its own episodes and story along along with that development. The point is, I'm trying to say, Witch's character development is freaking awesome and fantastic. Now let's talk about the designs and the animation of Witch. Oh boy, I got a whole lot to say about the designs. The designs of Witch are freaking breathtaking. It's like in each episode, they always change the city environment, and they always give a new environments in Meridian. I mean, Heatherfield almost looks identical to New York City. And which part of New York City I'm talking about? I'm talking about, of course, Queens and Brooklyn. I mean, if you look at one of the girls' houses, school, or where the show shows a montage of the sun rising at dawn. These designs are just breathtaking. Heck, even the character designs are great to look at. Yeah, I will admit, it is a little better than the manga. I will admit, it is a little bit better than the manga art style. Because the manga art style just, I don't know, it just seems weird and they made the characters almost too realistic. So to help with SAP animations, they adjusted the characters to keep it 2D, but it has some CGI parts to it. So for the designs and animations, they're great, but awesome in my opinion. Also, I forgot to mention the rain effects, and the weather effects are so freaking realistic that you want to jump into the world of Heatherfield. And Meridian looks like something out of something out of Legend of Zelda game, mainly Ocarina of Time, because the market, Phobos' castle, reminiscent from Ganondorf's castle. And I do like Kandahar, which sort of reminds me of Sky Sanctuary Zone from Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And I do like Zambala, which sort of reminds me of those Kotal cutscenes from Sonic Adventure, except that everything is all purple there. Point is, the designs are fantastic and breathtaking to look at. And here's one more question: doesn't Irma's house reminds you of the blue house where the truck smashed in from Sonic Generations when you're playing the classic Sonic in City Escape? Also, this show has some pretty hilarious reference, if you know what I mean. Unlike most animes where they force the references in your throats, this anime is sort of like with The Simpsons, where, let's say, it presents the plot, and they make the reference unexpected. I can name a couple of few. There's a Resident Evil reference, where let's say the girls were investigating Elion's house for clues, and also where the people were hypnotized, which sort of reminds me of Resident Evil 2. There's a Sonic Heroes reference, if you look at this clip right here. A Donkey Kong Jungle Beat reference, where let's say the girls are at war on the battlefront of Meridian, which also reminds me of Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, because it had the same level. Yeah, it had the same level, and it actually looked it like it. And what a coincidence! The episode is named after it. A Mario 64 reference, where let's say the girls jump into a painting in the frame episode, just to save Alicia Van Dutch, a Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 reference, where let's say the girls were skating down the skating down a hill, which I believe is something out of City Escape, which because the designs really does remind me of San Francisco. And a Sonic Adventure reference where let's say the girls had that snowboarding contents with that very snooty Russian popular girl, which sort of reminds me of the the Ice Cat stage from Sonic Adventure 1. And of course there is a Zelda Ocarina of Time reference and Majora's Mask reference. Now I already mentioned that Meridian totally looks like totally looks like Hyrule from Legend of Zelda's Ocarina of Time. But the Majora's Mask reference is when Matt was suddenly changing into Shagon. Not only that, also there's a snow-top mountain which sort of looks like the snow level from Ocarina of Time on Mount Thanos from the Witch show. And also there's of course a Sailor Moon reference. You can't have a show that's competing with another anime without having the reference. It's from the episode V reference, and where Phobos is in science class with Tarani. You could clearly instantly see a Sailor Moon freaking reference. Well, I would like to sit down and talk about all the references in the show, but you have to see it for yourself. The point is, the freaking references are freaking hilarious, and I never get tired of it. Then there's the soundtrack. The soundtrack, I gotta say, is freaking amazing. I like the soundtrack because it fits the atmosphere and the designs and the animation of the show. Here are a couple of soundtracks you should listen to. Not only that, The Demon in Me, which is only performed by Jason Manderson, plays as Matt, is freaking amazing. You should listen to this song and tell me if you get a teardrop out of it.
Less painful. Here I was fighting the demon in me, the demon in me, the demon in me. The battle.
Lynn, there's something I need to tell you.
Seconds, please.
What is it, Grandma? Eat your veggies.
When are we going to rehearse? What's the rush? I'm a genius on the guitar, and Kirk started playing the drums when he was 6.
And there's also the main theme song, which you are listening right now, and it's performed by Mambo Raven which she did, which she's an artist from the early 2000s, and she did a couple of songs, but this is probably the most memorable song that I heard in my life. Well, anyway, the soundtrack is freaking amazing. I love the opening theme. It is the best opening theme to an anime I ever heard in my life, and listening to this theme song is always freaking nostalgic in my opinion. Well, anyway, the montage music as well. The music is great. The music is great, but better in my opinion. Yes, folks, there are some flaws about the show. I wouldn't say it's perfect. But heck, it has some minor episodes. Well, there's this one episode called Service of Community. Well, I didn't really like the episode because, you know, basically it just talks about the girls going on community service and they complain about it. But it's the only episode where they meet the Oracle, which turns out to be Narissa near the end. Then there's Frame. Now even though Frame introduces Alicia Van Dutch and Frost the Hunter, let's just say this episode confused the hell out of me, and the plot did not make any sense. I will admit, it is curious to see if the girls could succeed without could not succeed without their powers, and not having the heart to be power up in the picture frame. But come on, this is ridiculous. But then in season 2, there were the worst episodes. There is Seeds for Change. Let's just say Seeds for Change was an intense episode. I mean, in that episode, Will gets grounded because she didn't do her math homework, and then her mother questions her about her guardian powers. Then after that, we have Tom Lair, Irma's father, which he is a cop, which I just mentioned. He tries to question about Elion's disappearance. Let's just say this episode was intense, and they used the character development way too serious in this episode. It was very confusing to see Elion come to Earth. I said, what? Why is she at Earth? Ain't she supposed to be the queen of Meridian or something? And there are the last episodes, T through Y. I'm not saying that these are terrible episodes. I'm just saying that they're terribly rushed, and the animators and developers should have took their times on this episode. I know they're trying to rush it to get to the final episode of the show, but sadly, I didn't like how they abused the character development, and they made it too serious, especially between the relationship of Halen and her grandmother in episodes T through Y. Just watch this clip.
Oh, by all means, let Halen and I have this dance. After all, she'll be needing a new partner, since there'll be nothing left of her old one but a sunspot.
But anyway, those episodes are not really bad compared to the final episode. I'm not saying that it's bad. No, it was very good. It was freaking amazing. Well, during that episode, Phobos gets his revenge along with Narissa, and they finally take over Heatherfield. But the residents and their parents don't know about it, so they just ignore the situation. So the Guardians uses a big TV screen, which looks like the one of the monitors from Times Square, and they play a random like cartoon while the viewers were distracted. Not only that, this episode ran on a big cliffhanger with this clip right over here.
Blamed on the snowstorm, which made no sense, but people believe what they want to believe. Case in point, Marissa. She would remain with Julian, and maybe in time, father and son would make peace with what she had done. Meanwhile, the other baddies were back where they belonged. And so was a fully powered Elion on Meridian's throne, surrounded by people she can trust, including Raythor, who finally has a monarch worthy of his service. It was kind of a new start for everyone. The Council of Kandrakar was back in business. Queen Kadma returned her heart to Zambala, but abdicated her throne for a more, humble life on Earth. And a ghost-free Cassidy went home, too. Yan Lin introduced her family to her long-lost twin sister, Mira, while the rest of us just tried to find our way back to normal. It pretty much took all winter break. But by the time school started, I think we had finally decompressed.
Girls! Oh, girls! I'd like to introduce you to our new computer instructor. This is Professor Raphael Silla.
And I'm looking forward to getting to know all 5 of you.
Yep, everything back to normal.
I will admit, it's nice to see the Sonic Adventure Perfect Chaos reference in that episode, but it'll be nice if they made a season 3. What the truck? Why not a season 3? Well, my final verdict of which is that this is an awesome anime made by Disney, but not only that, this is the last good cartoon made by Disney. It's sad to see that SAP Animations failed. It's sad to see that SAP Animations is not going to make a season 3. Seeing how the fans were left confused, and curious, what are the girls' lives after feeding Narissa? Are they going to go to high school? Or are they going to defeat a new evil villain? Is Narissa's going to get her revenge? It just left a lot of unquestioned answers, similar to how the Sonic Sat-AM series ended with a big cliffhanger about revealing Metal Sonic. Oh well, at least Elizabeth Gahn is still publishing the manga, if I'm correctly mistaken by on Witch forums. Well, anyway, Witch is an epic show that used to air on Jetix, and it's the only good show that I always watch with nostalgia every time. I'll give Witch a 9.0 out of 10. This is Biliah the Sega Gamer, signing out.
Where darkness reigns, we got the power to fight back. We save the day, united by this word. We can become more than you know. The heart will lead the way to what we can control. fight, we fight for truth. This is our revolution. In day or night, we have the strength.